"We'll give you milk for your baby, but you have to sleep with one of us," said the Apache woman. She walked slowly across the dry land, her feet sore and swollen, her body weak from days without proper food. The sun was harsh, and the wind carried dust that stuck to her skin and clothes. She held her baby close to her chest, wrapping him tightly in a thin cloth she had used again and again. The baby was quiet, too quiet for a child so young. That silence frightened her more than his cries ever had. She was a mother with no name anyone remembered, no place left to call home. Her husband had died months earlier during a hard winter, and after that, everything fell apart. The small farm they lived on was taken by debt. Neighbors who once smiled now avoided her eyes. With no milk left in her body and no money to buy food, she had been forced to leave, carrying only what she could hold in her arms. Every step she took was for her child. When her legs felt like they would collapse, she told herself to take one more step. When her vision blurred, she focused on the baby's breathing, light and uneven. She whispered to him, even when her throat was dry, promising that she would not stop, that she would find help somewhere. The land around her was unfamiliar. She had heard stories of different tribes living beyond the hills. Some stories spoke of kindness, others of danger. But desperation had made fear feel small. Hunger had a way of silencing every other worry. All she knew was that she could not turn back. There was nothing behind her except loss. As the sun began to lower, she saw signs of life ahead. Smoke rose thinly into the sky. Shapes of tents and simple shelters appeared in the distance. Her heart beat faster. She had reached an Apache settlement, a place she had only heard about in whispers. She stopped for a moment, gathering what little strength she had left, adjusting the cloth around her baby so he would stay warm. She entered slowly, careful not to appear threatening. Her clothes were torn, her hair tangled, her face marked with exhaustion. People noticed her immediately. Conversation stopped. Eyes followed her movements. She felt exposed, judged, and small, but she kept walking. Pride no longer mattered. Only her child did. A few women stepped forward. They were strong-looking, their faces calm but serious. They spoke to her in a language she barely understood, but their tone was clear. They wanted to know who she was and why she had come. She tried to answer as best she could, using simple words and gestures. When words failed her, tears spoke for her. She gently opened the cloth and showed them the baby. His face was pale, his lips dry. One of the women reached out and touched his cheek. Her expression changed slightly, though she quickly hid it. Another woman exchanged a glance with the others. The mother noticed this and felt a small spark of hope. She believed that women, especially mothers, would understand. They led her to a shaded area near a fire. Someone gave her a small cup of water. She drank slowly, afraid it might be taken away if she finished too fast. The baby stirred in her arms, letting out a weak sound that barely carried. Her heart tightened. She explained her situation as clearly as she could. She told them she had no milk left, that her baby had not eaten properly in days. She told them she did not want shelter or gifts, only enough milk to keep her child alive. As she spoke, her voice shook, but she forced herself to continue. She had come too far to remain silent. The women listened without interrupting. Their faces showed little emotion. This made her nervous. She could not tell what they were thinking. Were they judging her, deciding if she was worth helping? The waiting felt heavy, like time had slowed just to test her patience and strength. The sun continued to sink, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. The air cooled and the baby's small body shivered. She pulled him closer, rubbing his back gently. She looked around and noticed other children playing nearby, healthy and loud. The sight filled her with a mix of pain and longing. She wondered if her baby would ever run and laugh like that. One of the women finally spoke. She told her to wait. They needed to talk among themselves. The women walked away, leaving her alone by the fire. No one told her where to sleep or what would happen next. She sat there, holding her child, listening to the crackle of the flames and the distant sounds of the camp. Night came slowly but firmly. The sky darkened and stars appeared one by one. She felt the cold creep into her bones. Fear returned, stronger now. What if they decided to send her away? What if this hope, like all the others before it, disappeared? She rocked her baby gently, humming a song her own mother used to sing. Her voice was weak, but the melody brought comfort, even if only for a moment. She thought about her past life, the home she had lost, the simple days when she never imagined begging strangers for help. Those memories felt like they belonged to someone else now. Her thoughts were interrupted by footsteps. The women returned, standing in front of her. Their faces were serious and the air felt tense. She searched their eyes, trying to read their decision, but it was impossible. One of them carried a container. The mother's eyes went straight to it. Milk. She knew the smell instantly. Her heart jumped with relief, but it was mixed with confusion. Why were they still standing there? Why had they not handed it to her yet? She reached out slightly, then stopped herself, afraid to appear rude or desperate. Her baby made another small sound, reminding her of what was at stake. The women spoke quietly among themselves, then turned back to her. One of them began to speak slowly, choosing her words carefully. The mother listened closely, not fully understanding everything, but sensing that this moment would change everything. As the woman spoke, the mother's chest tightened. She felt the weight of the situation pressing down on her. She did not yet know exactly what would be asked of her, but she felt a deep unease. The milk was close, closer than it had been in days, yet it felt farther away than ever. She looked down at her baby, his tiny fingers curling weakly against her skin. She promised herself silently that no matter what happened, she would protect him. Even if her heart broke, even if the world proved cruel again, she would not give up. The night grew quiet. The fire crackled softly. All eyes were on her now. The choice before her had not yet been spoken fully, but its shadow already loomed large. Part one of her struggle did not end with relief or safety, but with uncertainty, hanging heavy in the air, waiting to be answered. The woman felt her breath slow as the Apache women spoke. Their words were careful, almost calm, but the meaning behind them was heavy. They explained that food was scarce, that milk was not something given without thought. They talked about rules, about balance, about how every gift required something in return. The mother listened closely, her heart beating faster with every sentence. At first, she did not fully understand. She thought they were asking her to work, to help around the camp, to carry water or clean. She nodded quickly, ready to agree to anything. Her hands tightened around her baby as hope rose again. Work did not scare her. Hard labor was nothing compared to watching her child fade from hunger. But then the words became clearer. The women's voices lowered. One of them looked away while another spoke. The request was not about work or service. It was about her body, about giving something she never imagined would be demanded. The meaning struck her like cold water. She froze, unable to speak. Her mind refused to accept it at first. She shook her head slightly, thinking she must have misunderstood. She looked at the milk container again, then at the women's faces. There was no mistake. The silence that followed felt heavy and sharp. Her chest tightened, and for a moment she could not breathe. She felt shame rush over her, hot and painful. Not because she had done anything wrong, but because she was being seen not as a mother in need, but as someone to be used. Her face burned. Her eyes filled with tears she tried to hide. She pulled her baby closer, as if to shield him from the words that had just been spoken. Anger followed quickly after shame. It rose from deep inside her, strong and sudden. She wanted to shout, to tell them how wrong this was, how cruel it felt. She wanted to remind them that she was standing there as a mother, not as an object. But the anger had nowhere to go. She was alone, weak, and surrounded by people who held all the power. The women waited. Their faces were firm, not cruel, but not kind either. To them, this was an offer, not a threat. They spoke as if they were giving her a choice, but she could feel how small that choice truly was. Accept and save her baby, or refuse and walk away with nothing. Her baby stirred again, letting out a faint sound that cut through her thoughts. She looked down at him, his eyes barely opening, his tiny chest rising and falling unevenly. That sound broke something inside her. The world narrowed until there was only his face and the sound of his breath. Memories flooded her mind. She remembered the day he was born, the way he had gripped her finger, the promise she had made to protect him no matter what. She remembered her husband's smile, the life they had planned, the safety she once believed would never disappear. All of it felt painfully far away now. She stood up slowly, her legs shaking. She needed space, air, time to think. She asked if she could step aside. The women allowed it, watching her closely. She walked a short distance away and sat on a rock, rocking her baby gently. Tears finally fell, silent and steady. Her thoughts were tangled. If she refused, what would happen? Could she walk farther with a child this week? Would they survive another night without food? The fear of losing him pressed down on her chest until it hurt. At the same time, the idea of agreeing felt like losing a part of herself she could never get back. She felt trapped between two kinds of pain. One was quick and final. The other was deep and lasting. She wondered if surviving was worth the cost they were asking her to pay. She wondered if she would ever forgive herself if she said yes. She wondered if her child would someday sense the weight of that choice. She looked around the camp, watching people move about their evening routines. Fires burned. Laughter drifted softly through the air. Life went on as if nothing unusual was happening. That made her feel even more alone. Her suffering felt invisible, hidden behind ordinary sounds and movements. As she sat there, she noticed one woman standing slightly apart from the others. This woman had not spoken yet. Her face showed discomfort, maybe even doubt. Their eyes met briefly. In that moment, the mother saw something change. It was small, but it was there. A crack in the wall she felt trapped behind. She stood again and walked back toward the group. Her heart pounded. Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to speak. She said she was grateful for their help, but she could not agree to what was being asked. She said she was a mother first, and that her child's life mattered more than any rule or tradition. The women reacted differently. Some looked annoyed, others looked surprised. One shook her head slowly. The woman who had looked uncertain earlier lowered her eyes. The air grew tense. No one spoke for a long moment. The milk was still there, so close she could almost smell it. Her baby cried weakly, as if sensing the tension. Every part of her wanted to reach out and take it, to end the hunger, to end the waiting. But her hand stayed still. She had made her answer clear, even if it cost her everything. One of the women spoke again, her voice sharper now. She warned the mother that refusing meant there would be no help. The rules were the rules. The mother nodded slowly. She said she understood. Inside, her heart was breaking. She turned away, preparing herself to leave the camp before morning. She did not know where she would go or how far she could make it. All she knew was that she could not stay under these terms. Each step away from the fire felt heavier than the last. Before she could walk far, a quiet voice called out to her. It was the woman who had looked unsure before. She told her to wait, just wait. Her tone was different, softer. The mother stopped, her body tense, unsure if this was another test or something else. The woman did not promise anything. She only said that not everyone agreed with what had been said, that some things were being questioned, that the elders had not yet been informed. These words did not solve anything, but they lit a small flame of hope in the darkness. The mother returned to the fire and sat again, exhausted in every way. She felt drained, but also strangely strong. She had spoken up when it would have been easier to stay silent. Whatever happened next, she knew she had not given up her voice. The night stretched on. Sleep did not come easily. Her baby rested quietly against her, his warmth a fragile comfort. She watched the stars above, wondering what kind of world demanded such choices from a mother. She wondered if dawn would bring kindness or cruelty. Part 2 of her journey did not end with answers. It ended with tension, with fragile hope, and with a woman standing at the edge of despair, refusing to lose herself even when survival was at stake. The night passed slowly, stretching like it had no end. The mother sat close to the dying fire, her baby resting against her chest. She barely slept, waking at every small movement or sound. Each time the baby shifted, her heart jumped with fear. She checked his breathing again and again, afraid that hunger had taken too much from his small body. When the sky finally began to lighten, she felt no relief, only a deep tiredness in her bones. Morning did not bring answers. It only brought another day of waiting. People in the camp began to move, starting their daily tasks as if nothing unusual had happened the night before. That made her feel invisible, like her pain existed outside their world. She stood up slowly and walked toward the edge of the camp, unsure of what she was supposed to do next. She did not want to leave yet, not while there was still a small chance for help. At the same time, staying felt painful. Every glance at the milk container reminded her of the condition attached to it. As she stood there, holding her baby, an older man approached. His hair was gray, his movements slow but steady. His eyes were sharp, observant. He asked her who she was and why she had come. His voice was calm, not demanding. Something about his presence made her feel slightly safer. She told him her story again from the beginning. She spoke about her journey, her loss, her baby's hunger. She spoke honestly without hiding her fear or shame. When she finished, her voice broke. She waited for his response, preparing herself for rejection once more. The elder listened without interrupting. When she finished, he looked at the baby for a long moment. Then he sighed. He asked her who had spoken to her the night before. She hesitated, unsure if answering would make things worse, but she told him the truth. His expression changed, not to anger but to disappointment. He said nothing at first. Then he told her to wait. He turned and walked away, leaving her standing there with questions and uncertainty. Time passed slowly. The sun climbed higher. Her baby became restless, making soft sounds that broke her heart. She walked back toward the fire, sitting down again, gently rocking him. She felt weak, not just in body but in spirit. Still, she reminded herself that she had not come this far to give up. Soon, voices began to rise nearby. Not shouting, but serious discussion. Several elders had gathered, along with some of the women from the night before. The mother watched from a distance, unable to hear what was being said. She could only read faces and body language. Some of the women looked defensive. Others looked uncomfortable. The elder who had spoken to her gestured firmly as he talked. The woman who had shown doubt earlier stood slightly behind the group, her arms crossed tightly. The tension in the air was clear. The baby let out a weak cry, louder than before. It echoed in the quiet moment and drew attention. Heads turned toward the mother. The elder raised a hand, signaling silence, then walked toward her. He knelt beside her and spoke gently. He told her that what had been offered to her did not reflect the values of the community as a whole. He said that traditions were meant to protect people, not harm them. His words felt like water on dry ground. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they were mixed with relief. She did not fully trust the moment yet, but for the first time she felt heard. The elder told her to wait a little longer. Help would come. The women who had made the offer were called forward. The elder spoke to them firmly. He reminded them of responsibility, of respect, of how power should never be used against someone who had none. Some of the women looked away. One tried to explain herself, saying times were hard, that rules existed for a reason. The elder listened, then shook his head. The camp grew quiet. People stopped what they were doing and watched. This was no longer a private matter. It was a test of the community's heart. The mother felt exposed again, but also protected in a way she had not before. One of the women stepped forward. It was the same one who had shown doubt the night before. She spoke quietly but clearly. She said that she could not support what had been demanded. She said that helping a mother and child should never come with shame or conditions that break a person's spirit. Her words caused murmurs among the group. Some nodded, others stayed silent. The elder listened carefully, then turned back to the mother. He asked her once more if she was willing to accept help freely without any hidden price. The question confused her at first. She nodded slowly, unsure if she had heard correctly. He smiled slightly and stood up. Milk was brought forward. This time, no one blocked her path. No one spoke conditions. The container was placed gently beside her. Her hands shook as she reached for it. She hesitated, afraid it might be taken away again. But it was. She fed her baby carefully, drop by drop, making sure he could handle it. His body relaxed almost immediately. He drank slowly, then more eagerly, as strength returned little by little. The mother watched his face closely, tears falling freely now. This was the moment she had been fighting for. The people around them stood quietly, watching. Some looked ashamed, others looked relieved. The elder placed a blanket around the mother's shoulders and told her she could rest. As her baby slept, full for the first time in days, the weight inside her chest finally eased. She leaned back, exhausted but grateful. She knew the road ahead would still be hard, but this moment had changed something deep inside her. Later that day, the elder spoke to the community again. He said that hardship was no excuse for losing humanity. He said that the way they treat the weakest among them defines who they are. His words carried far, settling into the hearts of those listening. The mother stayed for several days after that. She was given food and a safe place to rest. No one made demands of her. Some people avoided her eyes, embarrassed by what had happened. Others showed kindness quietly, offering small gestures of help. She did not forget what had been asked of her. The memory stayed sharp, but it no longer owned her. She had spoken up. She had protected herself and her child without surrendering her dignity. As her baby grew stronger, she began to plan her next steps. She knew she could not stay forever. She needed to move forward to find a place where her child could grow in peace. But she would leave knowing that her voice had mattered. Part 3 of her journey was not about victory in the loud sense. It was about quiet strength, about standing firm when it would have been easier to break. It was about how one mother's courage forced a community to look at itself and choose a better path. The days that followed were quiet, but the silence carried weight. The mother stayed in a small shelter near the edge of the camp. It was simple, made of wood and cloth, but it felt safe. Each morning, she woke to the sound of birds and distant voices. For the first time in many days, she did not wake in panic. She woke tired but steady. Her baby grew a little stronger each day. His color returned slowly, like light coming back after a long storm. He slept more peacefully, and when he cried, the sound was stronger than before. The mother watched him constantly, afraid that relief might vanish if she looked away. Every breath he took felt like a gift. Some people in the camp avoided her. They passed by quietly, eyes lowered, pretending not to see her. Others stopped briefly, offering food or water without many words. No one spoke openly about what had happened, but it lived in the air between them. It was a shared memory that no one quite knew how to handle. The women who had made the offer did not come near her. She saw them from a distance, working, talking among themselves. Their faces were closed, guarded. She did not feel anger toward them anymore. What she felt was something heavier and more confusing, a deep sadness that such a choice had even been considered. The elder visited her often. He checked on the baby, asked about her strength, and listened when she spoke. He did not rush her words. When she talked about her fears, he nodded. When she spoke of her past, he listened quietly. He never tried to excuse what had happened. That honesty mattered to her more than any apology. One afternoon, the elder called a gathering. The sun was high and many people stopped their work to attend. The mother did not plan to go. She did not want to stand in front of everyone again. But the elder asked her gently if she would come, not to speak, but to be present. After some thought, she agreed. She stood near the back, holding her baby close. The elder spoke clearly and firmly. He talked about responsibility, about how fear and scarcity can twist judgment. He said that rules must protect life, not control it. His voice was calm, but his words were strong. He did not name anyone directly, but everyone knew who he meant. The women who had made the offer stood quietly, their heads lowered. The elder spoke about dignity, about how no one should be placed in a position where survival feels like a bargain. He reminded them that compassion is tested most during hard times. There was no shouting, no punishment announced. Instead, there was acknowledgement. The elder said that mistakes had been made and they would not be ignored. The community would reflect, discuss, and change what needed to be changed. Silence followed his words, deep and thoughtful. The mother felt a strange mix of relief and discomfort. Part of her wished the moment would pass quickly. Another part felt grateful that the truth had been spoken aloud. She realized this gathering was not just about her. It was about the kind of people they chose to be. After that day, the atmosphere slowly shifted. People spoke more openly. Some women came to her quietly, offering kind words. One admitted that fear had guided their actions more than care. Another said she had been ashamed but did not know how to speak up. These conversations were not easy, but they were honest. The mother did not forgive easily, but she listened. She understood fear. She understood hunger. She also understood the danger of letting fear decide what is right. She spoke calmly, not accusing but firm. She told them how close she had come to losing herself. Her words were simple, but they carried truth. As time passed, she began helping where she could. She carried water, watched children, cleaned shared spaces, not because she was asked to, but because she wanted to feel useful again. Work helped her feel human, not helpless. People noticed and began treating her less like a problem and more like a person. Her baby continued to grow stronger. He smiled for the first time since their journey began. That smile filled her with hope she had almost forgotten. She realized that survival alone was not enough. Healing was just as important. At night, when the camp grew quiet, she thought about leaving. She knew she could not stay forever. This place had helped her, but it also held memories she did not want to carry into the future. She wanted a fresh start, somewhere her child would not be marked by this experience. The elder spoke to her about this one evening. He said he understood if she chose to go. He offered supplies for the journey and directions to safer lands. He told her she had a strong spirit and that her courage had already changed more than she knew. Those words stayed with her. She realized that while pain had brought her to this place, her strength would carry her forward. She was no longer just reacting to survival. She was choosing her path again. The day before she planned to leave, the woman who had spoken up for her approached. They sat together quietly, watching the sun dip low. The woman apologized, not with many words, but with honesty. She said that seeing the mother stand firm had reminded her of who she wanted to be. The mother thanked her. That moment mattered deeply. It showed her that speaking up, even softly, can move others to do the same. Change does not always come from loud actions. Sometimes it grows from quiet courage. As night fell, the mother packed what little she had: food, water, warm cloth for her baby. She held him close and whispered promises about the future. She did not know what waited ahead, but she felt ready to face it. Part 4 of her journey was not about forgetting the past. It was about facing it honestly, watching accountability take shape, and understanding that survival can open the door to change. She was leaving stronger than she arrived, carrying not just scars but wisdom and a renewed belief in her own worth. The morning she left the camp was quiet and cool. The sky was pale, and the air carried the smell of earth and firewood. The mother stood for a moment at the edge of the settlement, her baby wrapped safely against her chest. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. This place had given her both pain and help, fear and hope. Now it was time to move forward. A few people came to see her off. They did not speak much. Some handed her food wrapped in cloth. Others offered water or pointed out the safest path to follow. The elder stood nearby, leaning on his staff. He met her eyes and nodded once, a simple sign of respect. She nodded back, feeling a quiet gratitude that words could not fully express. As she began to walk, she did not look back right away. She focused on the road ahead, on each step, on the soft weight of her baby against her heart. The land stretched wide in front of her, uncertain but open. For the first time in a long while, that uncertainty did not feel like a threat. It felt like possibility. The journey was still hard. The days were long and her body was not fully recovered. But she was stronger now, both inside and out. Her baby fed well and slept peacefully. His small sounds were full of life. Each time he moved, she felt a quiet joy rise within her. She spoke to him often, telling him about the world they would find together. At night, she rested when she could. She built small fires and wrapped herself and her child tightly. Sometimes fear returned, especially when the wind howled or strange sounds echoed in the dark. But she reminded herself of what she had already survived. She reminded herself that fear did not own her anymore. As the days passed, she met other travelers. Some were kind, offering directions or brief company. Others passed without a word. She learned to read the land, to listen to her instincts. She trusted herself more now. Each decision she made strengthened that trust. Eventually, she reached a small settlement near a river. It was not large or wealthy, but it felt welcoming. People worked together, shared meals, and spoke openly. She stayed on the edge at first, watching, learning. When someone asked about her story, she shared only what she felt ready to share. She was no longer desperate to explain herself. She knew her worth. She found simple work helping with daily tasks. The work was honest and tiring, but it gave her a sense of belonging. People saw her as a mother, a worker, a person, not a burden. That mattered more than comfort. Her baby grew quickly. His laughter filled the small space they lived in. His eyes followed her everywhere. She watched him grow with a mix of joy and awe. Each new sound, each small movement felt like a victory. Sometimes, memories of the past returned. There were nights when she woke suddenly, her heart racing, remembering the fear and the choice she had been forced to face. When that happened, she held her child close and reminded herself that the moment had passed. She had survived it. It did not define her future. As years went by, she became known in the settlement as someone steady and strong. Other women came to her for advice, especially those facing hard times. She listened more than she spoke. When she did speak, her words were gentle but firm. She never judged. She understood how easily life could push someone to the edge. She taught her child kindness, honesty, and courage. She taught him that strength is not about control, but about care. She taught him to speak up when something feels wrong and to help those who cannot help themselves. These lessons were shaped by her past, but they were given with hope, not bitterness. One evening, as the sun set over the river, she sat quietly, watching her child play nearby. She thought about the long road that had brought her here. The hunger, the fear, the painful choices, the people who had helped and those who had failed her. All of it felt distant now, like a story from another life. She realized that survival had been only the beginning. What mattered more was what she had built afterward. She had rebuilt herself piece by piece, with patience and courage. She had chosen dignity even when it was hard. That choice had shaped everything that came after. She never returned to the camp she had left behind, but she did not carry anger toward it. She carried understanding. She knew that communities, like people, can stumble and learn. She hoped that the moment she had lived through had left a mark there too, one that would guide future choices. Years later, when her child was old enough to ask questions about their past, she told him the truth in simple words. She told him about the journey, about hunger and fear, about help and courage. She did not hide the pain, but she did not let it overwhelm the story either. She made sure he understood that his life had always been worth protecting. He listened quietly, then hugged her tightly. In that embrace, she felt a deep peace. The past no longer hurt in the same way. It had become a source of strength, a reminder of what love can endure. Her story did not end with a single moment of rescue or justice. It continued in small, everyday acts of kindness, in lessons passed on, in a life rebuilt with care. She had learned that dignity is not something others give. It is something you hold on to, even when the world tries to take it away. Part 5 of her journey was not about forgetting what happened. It was about living beyond it. It was about turning survival into purpose, pain into wisdom, and fear into quiet courage. And in that, she found not just a future, but peace.